The first order of business is simply to ask you all to check your phones, make sure they're on the silent mode, so we can proceed. Okay, keep on coming with the coffee, that's okay. We want to introduce this morning a subject of some importance to all of us who have lived through it in that day and time. After the end of World War II, the date of which is generally the date on which the Japanese surrendered in September 1945. But at the same time, the Truman administration then had to face a resurgence of a Chinese civil war, which pitted nationalist forces of Chiang Kai-shek against the communist forces led by Mao Zedong. This proved to be an intractable fight, even though the Truman administration sent one general officer to attempt to form a coalition between these two warring parties. It never succeeded, and the communist side of this fight eventually prevailed, and Mao Zedong wound up proclaiming the People's Republic of China on the first day of October 1949. How this conflict affected the average Chinese family is the key to understanding how people had to move out of the way of this fight and eventually find their way to safety in other locales. Today we have Mrs. Maudie Lin, who will tell us about her family's own experiences in this period of conflict and resolution as it prevailed at that time. So the Lin family arrived here at Cedarfield in July 2016 to become our neighbors and co-residents. So please join me in welcoming today Mrs. Maudie Lin.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here, and thank you for coming so I can tell you part of my life story. 1949 is one of the turbulent years in my life. My father, who is advisor for Chiang Kai-shek Army during Japanese invasion and the Civil War. So when 1948, that looked like Chiang Kai-shek is going to fail, and he decided he had to move us to Taiwan. And he bought the ticket for this ship called Peace. It's Taipinglun. And that's supposed to sail January, close to end of January, 1949. He bought the tickets for us, then he went to Taiwan to arrange for our living residence and his job, whatever, in Taiwan. So he gave the ticket to my mother. And my mother didn't know where Taiwan is, and heard from friends or relatives say, "Ooh, this is a barbarian island, so far away. Why do you want to go there?" So she returned the tickets. We didn't go on that ship. That ship sank right out Shanghai port on the early morning of January 28, 1949. It collided with another ship coming from Taiwan. What happened is Chinese army had curfew at night in the Shanghai Shanghai port at night. So no ships came in or went out that port. The ship want to sail through the port at night, they turn off all the lights. No lights on the ship. So they could not be detected by the army. And that's how it happened when two ships both had no lights on and collide right outside the port. And thousands lost their lives. The ticket holders, only 508. Guess what happened? They overload the whole ship. They say the deck, before it sailed, the deck is leveled. They're leveled with the dock. Their dock was littered with all the belongings people had left there, valuables, gold bars, because a lot of people had no ticket and tried to get on. And they'd be shoveled into the ocean water. They couldn't carry heavy load of valuables, so they just litter everywhere on the dock. When my father found out, and he had to come back, and just a couple of days after the January 28th, Beijing fell to the communist hand. So my father rearranged for us to leave again because he knows if he stay there, he's going to be killed, and none of us are going to be able educated. He came back. He took us all on another ship. This is the last one out of Shanghai, called Zhongxinlun. It's a revival, name of revival. And the ticket cost 20 gold bars each, and we didn't have the money to buy that. So he ended up with one on the ship with no ticket. What happened is my uncle, who worked at China Port Authority, and he knew the captain of the ship pretty well, so he sneaked us up the ship without paying for it. We stayed in the captain's quarter for the 2-day trip to Taiwan. I need to tell you, I don't know any one of you have been Taiwan. Taiwan is located in southeast China. It's about 460 some miles from Shanghai. So by air, take more than, a little bit more than 1 hour, but by sea, it takes 1 to 2 days. And it's about 100 miles from the coast of southeast China. They're very close. They call Taiwanese Strait. And it's a very busy channel. Forgive me, I'm going to start reading something. Shanghai, we went on the ship is on early May, and Shanghai fell to communist hand in end of May. So we're lucky, just barely. My father was born in 1901, so before the Republic was established. Now, I wanted tell you something about the century of humiliation of China in history. China has revolution and civil war within half century, 50 years. The century of humiliation started late 19th century. Gunpowder was invented in China. Gunpowder was invented in China in 9th century. But Chinese uses firecrackers or medicine. They never thought of use that to make military equipment to kill people. And that knowledge was passed to Europe in 13th century. So China is really fall well behind Western powers as technology or military fields. So in the SARS era, that's the Qing dynasty, Russia took a lot of big piece of land northeast of China from the Qing dynasty. It's almost cover 1/2 or 1/3 of Siberia. But 1840 to 1860, that started the 2 opium wars. China closed the door for so long until in the 1840s and 60s, because the Western power want to push opium onto Chinese so they can get a lot of money to buy the silk and China from us. The first war, opium war against Britain, and China lost. So ceded Hong Kong for 99 years rent. And legalized opium in China and opened the ports to British. The second opium war, within 10 years, it's against Britain and France. They came and burned down the most beautiful garden in the world. It's Royal Summer Palace. I only saw some pictures, nobody thinks it was for the royals only, the emperor and empress. But they were very, very beautiful. And they have Chinese architecture and Western architecture in the same garden and never coming back. In late 19th century, Western powers carved China into sphere of colonies. Like Germany in Shandong, that's where close to Korea. Shanghai, there are 2 colonies. One is British, one is French. And there are public parks, but Chinese weren't allowed to go because reserved for foreigners. And Hong Kong was controlled by British, and Macau's by Portuguese. And 1894, it's a Sino-Japanese war. Then we lost Taiwan to Japan. 1900 is the Box Rebellion. China against 8 countries. There are many European countries like Britain, France, Italy, Spain. I don't know, there may be 1 or 2 more. And then US, Japan, and Russia, 8 countries. What happened is Chinese, especially the Empress Dowager Empress, she saw Kung Fu can beat cannon and guns. So they started rebellion against the 8 countries. And definitely sell. They don't have that many soldiers. I think maybe 2,000-3,000 the most, the combined troop. But that's enough to defeat China. So foreign troops able to stay stationed in Beijing, and they paid 333 million civil dollars to these 8 countries. And that's a lot more than the the dynasty's GDP a year. So they try to say they're going to pay in installment. But in 1921, US returned most of the money to China. They built a very prestigious college, universities, called Tsinghua. It's still one of the best universities in China. And they also create indemnity funds for Chinese students to study in the US. So a lot of the famous scholars in the late Qing dynasty and the beginning of Republic, they all educated in the United States. And most of the other countries returned the money too, except Japan. They demand a full payment and never miss any payment. 1911 is the time Qing dynasty collapsed and Republic government installed in Nanjing. 1912 to 1930, the Republic government was very weak, and there's many warlords in everywhere. They had the money and they had the soldiers. So they looted, they killed, whatever they decide to do. It's a time that's where national sentiment surged. They have a movement around the country. One the important ones called May 4th movement. And my father was one of the members of that. And 1921 was the time Communist Party created in Shanghai. 1931, Japanese invasion in northeast of China. Chiang Kai-shek ordered no resistance to the general in northeast of China. So the whole area fell overnight to Japan. In 1936, Japanese ship went to Xi'an. That's where the terracotta is. He was house arrested by 2 Chinese generals, and they forced him to declare war against Japan because he only wanted to fight to get rid of communists. He doesn't really care, he didn't care about anything else, not Japan's invasion. So 1937 to 45, Japan had full-scale invasion into the rest of China. And Chinese suffer immensely. My father was not at home most of the time. And occasionally he came home in Shanghai. Well, I didn't know how my mother's arranged for our living. You know, one time my father came back, he was arrested by Japanese soldiers, and they put him in prison. And then they searched our house. They found nothing except all the pawn receipts that my mother pawned the things to get food. Now, I want to talk about the 2 notorious Japanese units, army units. One is called Unit 731. Another one's called 516. They live by the same soldier, it's an officer, called Ishii. It's their biological and chemical weapon experience place in northern East China, Harbin. And what they did, they dissect human being without anesthesia, inject human with deadly disease, organ harvesting. There's a lot different criminal act. It's a lot worse than Nazi did Jews. And the deaths caused in this unit, it's 300,000. But what happened to them after the war? They never get prosecuted. They turn over their test result to United States Army, General MacArthur. So they never get prosecuted. They sent back to Japan and live their full life. And US has all their test results. I guess that's where they start all those different weapon labs all over the world. Total deaths in the war for Japanese invasion is 15 to 20 million, mostly a civilian. There are 2 famous books written on it. One is called Rape of Nanking. It's published 1997. It's authored by Iris Zhang. This massacre happened in December 1937, Nanjing. That used to be the Republic's capital. In 6 weeks, they killed 300,000 people. They massacre, the looting, they rape. The two soldiers start competition, who could kill more Chinese. So they just line up people and kill one by one. And nobody knows, not in the world, people found out such a horrendous criminal event until this woman, she graduated from Berkeley, and she decided she's going to write this book. She went to visit all the survivors, the Japanese soldiers, the families, the people lived that time in Nanjing, and she wrote the story. And she was depressed after finished this book. And she was haunted by the story and by the Japanese people. She finally killed by herself, suicide. Another book is called Great Flowing River. It's autobiography by this professor in Taiwan. She was born in northeast China and went through the war, the Civil War, and then moved to Taiwan. And that book is published in 2018. Both are available on Amazon. Chiang Kai-shek's government was very corrupted and never improved citizens' life. You know, a lot of people they are all poor and survival every day. And his brother-in-law took a lot of monies, sent to the United States, and bought mansions in Long Island. And he had all his money moved to U.S. Bank. He just lived in the United States until he died. And Madame Chiang Kai-shek, after Chiang Kai-shek died in Taiwan, and she came back to the United States and lived in her brother-in-law's mansion in Long Island. And Chiang Kai-shek also set free this famous soldier, Japanese soldier. He's the commander leader of Japan invasion army. He had a deal with him that if this guy called Ganchun, it's his Japanese name, if he would leave all his ammunitions, equipment, military equipment to Chiang instead of to communists, he will set him free. So the deal was made, and that guy went back to Japan and lived his full life. And Chiang did this for his own power. So communists heard about that, was very angry about he let go the biggest criminal, the war criminal in China. So 1945, once the invasion, the Japanese surrendered, the Civil War started. And because a lot of people would side with communists rather than Chiang Kai-shek. So it's not in his favor anymore. deaths in the Civil War is 4 to 10 million, and that's including soldiers and civilians. So 1949, communist victory, and the People Republic of China is officially created on October 1st. That's the national holiday for China. And Taiwan, now I want to talk about a little bit of Taiwan. And that's the home for me for all my school year until I graduated from college. When we moved to Taiwan, there's about, Chiang Kai-shek took all the gold in central bank, the famous treasure from the museum, the famous scholars in China, and troops to retreat to Taiwan. The Taiwan originated with indigenous people, and in the 17th century, it was colonized by Dutch. That's what they call it, Formosa, the most beautiful island. 1683 to 1895 was ruled by Qing dynasty. They took it from the Dutch. 1895 to 1945 is occupied by Japan. And after 1945, it was returned to China. And 1949, as Chiang Kai-shek took all people, 1.2 million to China. The Taiwanese population was about 6 million. Just think about it. All these people suddenly moved to this little island, and there's no jobs, no housing, no food. It was pretty bad situation. And Chiang Kai-shek government's kind of very unstable. He afraid that communists came from the sea, over the sea, and took over. And he only got secured, stable, when Korean War started. Then U.S. started supporting him, and 7th Fleet came around to the West Pacific. So Chiang Kai-shek, his party is called KMT, it's a Chinese National Party. He ruled China and Taiwan from 1928 to 1975. And his son, Chiang Jing-kuo, ruled Taiwan from 1978 to 1988. Chiang Kai-shek arrived in Taiwan. He imposed martial laws, and he had white terror rules. He's so afraid of communist spies. So there a period of time, people they were so afraid to be labeled as communist spy. They would be imprisoned, or killed, executed. So that's the first few years, it was very, very bad. And after his son died, his son decided they should have a Taiwanese leader, not somebody came from China mainland. So he picked this guy called Li Denghui. That's the next president. But he didn't know this guy is, that's what I have to mention a little bit. This guy is a Japanese descendant. When Japan returned Taiwan to KMT, Chiang Kai-shek, there were 300,000 Japanese stayed. They didn't go back to Japan. They just changed their name from Japanese to Chinese, and they dispersed into the society and just hide. So nobody knows who's in Chinese or who's Japanese. Nobody really knows. This guy, he didn't show his true self until he became president. And in his turn, he promoted two-state theory. That means China mainland will be China, and Taiwan should be independent. That's how the Taiwan independence started. And since he, they also have another political party called Democratic Progressive Party. It's DPP, or Green Party, is to promote the Taiwanese independence. And this few presidents after Li Denghui, they all Japanese descendant. So what they do in Taiwan is they changed the history book. So now they don't teach anybody about Chinese history. Their Taiwanese history start at Japanese occupation. You don't read anything before. They didn't even know their ancestors from China. Now there are two parties in Taiwan. One is the DPP, the Green Party. Another one is KMT, that's where Chiang Kai-shek, KMT. It's a green. So green versus blue. And the Green Party confiscated the blue party's properties and their money. So they couldn't enlarge the party and did their functions, whatever. So KMT is really not very powerful right now. And they split the society into two. We used to be in the same school, we're friends, we never had any problem with each other until the Green Party decided they wanted independence. They kind of brainwash people. They create different divisions and pit two different groups. So sometimes, I guess you can have Democrat and Republican in the same household. They have that. Don't talk to each other. They spread this thing to all over the world, even Richmond, Virginia. We used to have friends, the Taiwanese. They think they're Taiwanese. That's all the people lived before KMT retreat to Taiwan. And everybody came with Chiang Kai-shek would be mainlander. That's two different groups now. So even here, the people we used to friend with not socialized much anymore. We don't go to the same functions anymore. They speak Taiwanese, they don't speak Mandarin anymore. And suddenly, you don't see them as a friend. That's the propaganda going to so far. And I guess not many people know why. They just want to back to Japanese colonial rule because they are the Japanese descendants start from the whole thing. I just have some thoughts. There's some Chinese youth, I'll be quick. There's some Chinese youth, they're like 16, 17-year-old. They went out, that's the mainland China. They went out of house to do some shoppings or doing some errands because the KMT lost so many soldiers during the invasion and the Civil War. They started to recruit all those youth by force, join in the army. So they went with the army to Taiwan. And Chiang Kai-shek imposed no communication with mainland for 50 years until he died. So no communication between Taiwan and China. There's so many families broken. You know, some people came, went to Taiwan, but the family in China, he's married, his wife, his children, left in China. He thought going to go back so soon, but didn't. 50 years, no communication. They had no idea what happened to their relatives, families. And this youth, they've been yanked out from the street. They had no communication with their parents for 50 years, stay in Taiwan alone. And they had, when they allowed to go back to China, their parents already passed away. They would see maybe their sisters or siblings. And it was very tragic life for a lot of people. Mine is nothing compared to them. There are so many sufferings because of those wars. And you just think about if you never see your parents for 50 years, your sibling for 50 years, you're alone in another place. And that's, what kind of life was it? It's very sad. I just feel hope there's no war in the world. It's just terrible. Oh, why does politicians start war anywhere? Who's suffering? All the regular people. And I don't know when they will start because the people always have this ambition and either want money or power or whatever. But end result is, I just heard so much about this youth being drafted forcefully and took to Taiwan. My brother-in-law, both of them are students, came to Taiwan, okay, by themselves. And no family, no money, and they all end up had to be in the Army or Navy or Air Force because they couldn't live alone. They tried to go to school, university, had no money for education. So they both ended in the service. They both passed away now, but that just tell you there are just small samples And there's so much suffering because all this. And I hope China will never be in this position again. I love China because my motherland, but also love this country. I've been here since 1965, and I hope there will be no war here. Thank you.
So with that, let me ask you, are there any questions that we can ask Marty? This was a sad story, as I somewhat surmised when we asked her to come and speak. But please feel free to approach her when you see her anywhere in the house here. Does anyone have a question? We okay? All right, then we'll just close it out for today. Next month, we'll hear from Charlie Bryan, who's going to talk about finding a Civil War treasure, something he was directly involved in. So we'll await his words on that. Thanks so much for coming today. Appreciate it.